Hey, welcome back to Let's Make Canada A again. Of course, I am your host, Double J Jason James, and today's video is actually in response to a video that I seen on the World Alternative Media. Now, as a disclaimer before I begin, I just want to say that I actually appreciate what these guys do. I appreciate what Josh does. I wish I could do it myself. That's why I have this channel. It's a great channel to watch. It's definitely giving a different twist on the media, like what he was doing here with Trudeau. You know what? I love what he was doing there. It's great. But there's just one video that I seen, and I didn't like it because you could just tell by watching it that it was kind of skewed a little bit, and it didn't give the full detail. And it's this one right here. I just want to make sure that I have it all paused off here. I don't want any kind of advertisement stuff going on. So it says the Canadian economy is doomed. Okay, I don't know how true that is. Experts say Canada is on the verge of a major financial crisis. And this is Josh, I'm sorry I can't pronounce your last name, buddy. Sits down with author and economic analyst Josh Nielsen. See, or John Nielsen, sorry. This guy has been on a show multiple times. And you can see on the right, there's all kind of videos about, oh, the economy's collapsing, the economy's whatever, something's hurting, something's going on. Before I begin, I just want to say, predicting the economy is like predicting the future. You have no clue what's going on. You can only take a guess, and it may work or it may not work. But the thing is this guy's been on here recently, and he's been on here before, and he seems like to be that one guy that he constantly goes to. So he's not diversifying his economic opinion. He's going to his one buddy who's going to tell him the same thing that supports his claims. And he says, a recent development published by Financial Post regarding something we at WAM have spoken about for years. Canada is on the verge of a major financial crisis. The Liberal government accumulates more debts in the first year than Harper did in 8. You know what? That's not entirely true. Harper accumulated 150 billion in the 8 years, and Trudeau's 5, it would be 113. So Trudeau is on pace to match that number, and the thing I'm trying to say here is that they're trying to twist it around, but it's not true. And then I've made a comment a day ago. This is your economic videos are so horrible. They're extremely dull and bland. And this is true. In my book review, which is written by an economist, the issue with these books and the issues with these people is they don't speak so the regular person understands. They don't make it interesting. See, right here we have a Lauren Southern video, and Lauren Southern knows how to talk to young people. She knows how to make people excited, not just on her looks, but it's the same thing Faith Coldley does with the Rebels. Same thing with Erie's, like, I have a hard time pronouncing names, but the guy who runs it, Levant, he does a good job. You have to have charisma and personality, and Josh lacks that, but I love what he does because he's passionate about it. He's just not really meant for it. What he's meant for is not really meant to be on the screen. He'd be kind of better off putting someone who's charismatic, or it's kind of like, for best examples, like Donald Trump's a charismatic person, and the vice president there, Pensy Boy, he's not really that charismatic. He looks like a typical white guy that can't be trusted. It's the same thing that they use when they have, and these names are escaping me, which is going to make me look like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do. It's just that it is 1:45 in the morning in Atlantic Canada time, and I'm just trying to come up with the names. I can't think of Spicer, whatever his name is there. He has that kind of charismatic part to him. But anyways, it says, dull and boring, adds some spice to them. The average person isn't going to give you two fucks if it's a snooze fest. What do you really care about helping the people or stroking your own ego by showing how intelligent you are? And from a lot of your videos, your ego comes out way far too often. And it does. Also, the average Joes don't care about this nonsense you speak of, which is true. Walk down any street. Next time you're out in public, just walk down the street, ask a total stranger if they care about the deficits, or if they care about billions of dollars being wasted. The average person only cares about what's going on that day, whether or not they have enough cigarettes to smoke, or they have enough money in their pocket to get a coffee. They don't care about that. They care about what's going on in their social media feed. They care about what's going on with their children, their brothers and sisters, and their family. They more care about what's going on in the gossip and who's sleeping with who and what their boyfriend or girlfriend's doing or what their how strong their selfie game is. They don't care about running deficits. We've been running deficits since the 70s, and every prime minister, Mulroney ran horrible deficits, Trudeau ran deficits, Chrétien stopped running deficits. He did run them, but he stopped running deficits, and he made major cuts. Harper ran deficits, but Harper and his terrorist unit, which is what I said here, and his anti-deficit propaganda came into power and made Canadians start to care the slightest about it and started putting in fear. And the Conservatives here in New Brunswick added more than the Liberals did in their debt by almost 3 times. And that's the truth that Conservatives don't get. They don't say, well, we're the best for the economy, we're anti-deficit, because you speak about it more. That's why, but you don't actually do it. And I said, don't act like the Liberals are the problem. You give off a falsehood that the alternative, aka Conservatives, could do better yet. They only could do worse. Look at Mulroney and look at Harper's ridiculous tough on crime campaigns during the time of lower crime rates. The reason why I say it gives off a falsehood is it says, look at all this money that the Liberals are starting to rack up. Aren't they horrible? Oh, we gotta get them out of power. People don't think about NDP or Green or a Bloc, whatever, or a coalition government. They say, Conservatives. Well, they're no better. And I said to him, well, why don't you talk about what Chrétien did and what Martin did with the budgets, or how about Trump's adding trillions? You're talking about our, tiny little problems compared to their big problems. It's your anti-liberal agenda makes you biased, and your opinion becomes worthless. You have to have both sides of the story. And I said, be an actual reporter and cover both sides. Start paying to old white men. P.S. the powers in the East, so have fun with Trudeau for the next decade. Because a lot of people think, whatever. You look down here, he spent $200 million to fund abortion and kill babies abroad. Yet it doesn't matter. It's like, we do that here, and you should have the right. You should have the right whether you want to do it or not. Doesn't mean it is right or not, but you should have that freedom. And it's funny, people who say, oh, you shouldn't have the right to have abortions, are the same people who say that you should have freedoms. Well, having abortions is a freedom. So, we talk about all this, they're talking about all this stuff, global warming, but what I want to get at is when you look at the Canadian economy and you click on news, what kind of reports do you get? Because they took one Financial Post report, and of course I'm using Yahoo, and I didn't mean to, because it's like defaults too, so I do apologize. But let me just quickly go to my province. New Brunswick hopes the marijuana will boost ailing economy. So, anyways, Premier's 34 years old, they're going to use green growth. Anyways, marijuana in New Brunswick is going to be part of the pillar of the economic strategy. Pretty much what they said is that over $70 million will be added to New Brunswick's bottom line. This year, over $190 million went into the deficit. Had we would have had that $70 million, only our deficits would have reached 120. So, excuse me, but it significantly cuts our deficit by about more than 30%, which means that you can start cutting back more and more. That's great. They're already adding up to 40 jobs in a place, St. Stephen. St. Stephen only has 1,000 people, so you're employing 4% of the population, not the working population, which would be, this percentage would be a lot higher, but 4% of this little town's population is going to be employed by marijuana industry. And the fact that we are so economically centered around Prince Edward Island in Nova Scotia, which is over 1 million people there, over 1 million people in Maine, and 9 million people in Quebec, and the fact that we have 750,000 people in New Brunswick, we're positioned pretty well for our marijuana. They said that recreational marijuana could add $22.6 billion. That $22 billion would help benefit the economy. This is something that their video fails to mention as a way to deter this. They're just talking about, what's going on now. They're not talking about things in the future that could counterbalance us. So let's go over here, and I'm going to have to make this into a longer 2-part video, which more than likely will not allow me to do this right now on my YouTube page, because I would change it around. But, okay, so here we go, April 10th. Let's talk about the economy. Let's see what Global News has to say. So this right here is a Huffington Post piece. And of course the internet would start lagging when I'm trying to do a video. Anyways, hello YouTube, back here again with part number 2, just making sure everything's right. As you know, I'm a low budget, doing this all free in my spare time kind of organization. So, just looking at here, there's another thing that they failed to mention. The Canadian Free Trade Agreement, the CFTA, also got introduced right around the same time that this video was released on April 9th, 2017. Another thing that I've noticed is that his subscriber account only counts for half of his views. So therefore only half the people that watch his videos actually care about what he's talking about. So this piece right here talks about what they reserved in the free trade agreement, what can and what can't go through. So bulldogs, frog legs are bullish, weddings food, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on here. Anyways, there's a free trade agreement coming into effect with Europe. There's a free trade agreement that is going to be signed here shortly with China. That's going to come through. So there's a lot of positive notes that will help out the country. So 7 out of 10 provinces have their budgets out. Quebec's looking pretty good. They've cut $1 billion worth of income taxes. So that right there, like, how come in this video they're not saying, okay, well, at least in some parts of the country that are heavily taxed, Quebec being the most heavily taxed country, the income got cut by $1 billion. And the fact that there's a boost of 4.1% spending, which means that there's going to be services and whatever, and okay, there's a $2+ billion surplus in Quebec, like, it doesn't matter, and like it doesn't make sense. Like, Alberta expects a deficit of 10.8 billion in 2017. That's the same deficit that a province of New Brunswick has, be it they have way more people. So it's funny how they go, oh no, these deficits are, oh no, there's this or that going on, but they don't look elsewhere in the country and realize, hey, you know what, it's not as bad compared to what we have elsewhere, and therefore if it's not as bad, which means we should have an easier time turning it around. Also, our unemployment rate in Quebec has been the lowest it's been in 40 years in January. Also, there was over 19,000 jobs created in the past quarter, or in the past 3 months, or in January, sorry, in Canada. I'm just going off of stuff that I read a couple of days ago, so I do apologize. This is being very loose. It's not the greatest video, because I don't want it to come off like I'm attacking this video. I just want to come over the point that when they make these videos, they take one little piece or one little side of the story and they manipulate it. And that's what I'm trying to talk about here, is the fact that you took one little thing, yes, it says, look at this one, Global Mail from the end of March. This is from 13 days ago, less than 2 weeks ago. It expanded by a healthy 0.6%. Yes, the housing markets could drag down Canada's economy, but the economy has been doing good. That's the issue. There is going to be problems. There's always going to be problems. We have not bounced back from 2008 levels, and it doesn't take an economicus or whatever the fuck you want to call them to understand that with the oil is low, Alberta, which has heavily and retardedly focused too much on oil, is now suffering. Saskatchewan, who finally got their neck into their game, is now suffering. Newfoundland suffering. Free provinces with millions of people, of course their economy is going to suffer if they solely diversify in one particular industry. That makes a ton of sense. You know what? That makes a ton of sense. But you can't sit there and say, okay, well, in my neck of the woods it's bad because someone else in the neck of the woods is great. I never knew this stuff about Quebec until I read it. Guess what? Quebec's doing great. They cut $1 billion in income tax, which means more money in their people's pockets. They still are able to increase spending. They have one of the best budgets in the country, and they're still a heavily taxed province, so they're finding a way to get around those issues and starting to kind of claw back. That's great. The economy grew by 0.6%. Over 19,000 jobs were added. Yes, most of those jobs were in self-employed, but and we had economists. There was one where it was Manitoba, for a website out of Manitoba, and it said, oh, well, all these jobs are added to the Canadian economy. Well, they're in a, they're self-employed with less benefits and they have potential of failure, not making money. But on the same fucking hand, they say, oh, well, we want more entrepreneurship. We need more entrepreneurship. We need to get people off the trades. We need to get people to learn how to make businesses and develop businesses and learn how to make money and become self-efficient. We say all the time we have to become more self-efficient. We have to grow the entrepreneurial spirit like that in the States. And then when we do it, oh, well, those aren't good because they're not big companies coming in. Like, yeah, there is some issues, you know. There is some issues like, yeah, baby boomers are working longer, redefining retirement, you know. Here again, right down here, faster than expected, 2.6. Yeah, the trade deficit is a little off, but there's always going to be little snags. It's going to be like, yeah, we won the hockey game, 7-4. Yeah, our goalie got blew out in the first period, scored 4 goals, but we still won it by 7. Not really a defensive game, but the offense is hot. It's still a win, and that's what these guys over here don't get. They're trying to pander on the fear. They're trying to pander on people thinking that this side's no good, because what it do is it gets some views. This video is ad monetized. You get 2 cents per view. That means that this guy is getting $140 off of his video. $140 on his videos. He releases 2 videos a day. He's making, $7,000 a year, or $7,000 a month, sorry, $84,000 a year, that he wouldn't have to claim. That he could easily just cover up and wouldn't have to claim. And baby boomers working longer is great because, like I said in my review of The Tale of Two Nations, the longer baby boomers work, the more money they put into the system, the later they hell off retirement. It's all what Harper wants to do when he extends the 2-year of the pension, is so that you don't take money from the people, so that they don't have to pay as much, so they don't have to tax as much. Yeah, and of course Canadians are weird, growing economic relationship with China, because I'm just trying to see here, unfit to access Canada's economy. Yeah, of course they don't, because they don't want a foreign power, especially a large foreign power that's ever growing, to have control over it. So there's always twists and turns. Canada's free trade, a win for Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia thinks it's great. Hamilton, Ontario thinks it's great. When you watch these economic videos, and when you got people reading things, you have to understand, even when you watch mine, you have to understand, I'm just looking at what I see up and down here, right? Budget plans, empty talk, innovation, killing prosperity, tracking the economy under, Trudeau and his father. Here's the thing, I actually looked at this McLean article, and Trudeau and his father, the unemployment rate was 2 or 3% less. Yet they talk about how horrible Pierre Trudeau was. Yet the economy was better when Pierre Trudeau was in power than it was when his son was in power. So that's the hyperbolic bullshit that they like to talk about. It's the fact that they like to denounce those that are on that side of the spectrum, like to denounce what Pierre Elliott Trudeau did. Yet you look at the stats, and it was better than that. You look at the stats, the so-called taxes Justin Trudeau read, yet the facts show that the taxes haven't been risen. They've been risen on the rich, but who the fuck cares about the rich? Because they have to pay their fair share. You have to pay up, because not too long ago, you weren't rich. And there's another thing. 22 billion from free trade within Canada. You have Alberta economy creates 20,000 jobs. You know what? It's good news. 20,700 jobs were created in March. Where was that at? Economy's struggling along, so why are so many people, Dollarama expected, look at that. If the economy wasn't doing so good, Dollarama wouldn't be looking to expand to 1,700 stores. A Canadian company is looking to expand. Canadian business has been this optimistic about investments in 7 years. It's the same Financial Post. See, they're manipulating it. They're manipulating it. They're manipulating it. They're manipulating it. I've been Double J Jason James. Make Canada again.